I did Fraudcast News.
Yeah.
Which is the last episode of season 15.
Yeah, when you said it, I was like, yeah, alright, like, it's probably good. Like, I remember that. I was just like, yeah, I think that one's alright. And I watched it last night, and I was like, actually, this is great.
Oh, it's great, yeah. And
I
obviously,
loved it.
This is a centered around Mr. Burns.
Yes,
episode,
of course.
Which you can't go wrong with.
You can't, no.
He basically... Oh, what happens? So...
this...
How does it start?
This rock collapses onto Mr. Burns, and the whole town assumes he's dead.
Yeah.
He crawls out by some ridiculous process of eating bugs, and then was it an otter's milk?
I think so.
like of a mother otter, the milk of it, and that gave him enough strength to escape through all the rocks. So tough.
And obviously and then so he comes back, and obviously he's very mad that people don't appreciate him. Everyone's actually more happy that he's gone.
I love the bit as well where Homer, Lenny, and Carol are all like in like white suits and top hats and canes, like they're gonna go dance at his grave.
That's the funniest bit. Just Homer like, oh, you ready to dance on Mr. Burns' grave? Like, what a sense.
Ridiculous. Like they rented out suits or something. They looked really expensive, and then for some reason Mr. Burns is coming out of the cemetery. It's like, oh, whose grave are we dancing on? And they all just like back away. It's so dumb.
And he
to make himself look good, he buys like all the media in Springfield.
Exactly. Yeah. He starts with the newspaper, and then Lisa rivals this newspaper with her own one.
Yeah.
Because she came up with really good poetry,
mm-hmm.
Which was really cool. We saw like a conflict, even though they never like really came face to face.
We did have that one great scene where she comes to the power plant because he wants to buy the newspaper, and she says no, and then he's like, oh well, then get out of here. And she's like, oh, my mom isn't picking me up for an hour, and they both just like stand there awkwardly. And he's like, so what do you think of today's popular music scene? Like, oh, I think this track's more important issues. It's like, my god, are you always on?
The fact that Mr. Burns is like, do you ever have fun?
Yeah, him of all people is like, come on. I love that. But yeah, that's a good point, actually. That's the one bit that we see them together. Yeah. The rest of the conflict is like, they don't cross paths.
No, it's just manipulation. And
exactly.
I love that his way of like asking a youth a question is, so what do you think of today's modern music?
It's so good. Yeah, what a great Mr. Burns question.
One of my favourite moments was the Itchy and Scratchy episode.
So good. Yeah, I was
just like extreme propaganda. And it just basically becomes like, oh, so this orphanage wouldn't be powered without
the nuclear power plant,
and this hospital wouldn't. Yeah.
Then Mr. Burns comes in as like an eagle. He's like, remember, kids, nuclear power is your friend. So dumb.
And I think my favourite part of the whole episode was when Lenny and Carl are drinking at the bar.
Oh yeah, and that's like, great.
Oh, we have time to sit and think for a bit, and then Mo just comes over and starts whipping them. Like, those drinks ain't gonna drink themselves. To drinking more.
Let's think of more drinking, and he whips him with his bar rag. So good. They're just like both just thinking for a few seconds, like so ridiculously, because the newspaper made them think that maybe Mr. Burns isn't so great. I don't have to mull over this. That scene's great. It's a great showcase of like how you can have a scene that like, because of how great the ensemble of Springfield is. That scene was not important at all to the episode, but it was such a fun, quick little scene. Like you would not take it out,
and you didn't feel like you were taken away from the story or anything.
No, because it's just a great fun moment. Yeah, he just whipping them with the rags because they're not drinking.
And I always this episode in particular, it just really made me think about the whole Burns and Smithers dynamic
because he had the tattoo that he didn't get to show him,
and I just find it
like
so
number one boss. I know. It's so disturbing. I love the bit as well at the end where like, you know, he gives in and he sells, he gives up all the media, and he's looking over Springfield and he's like, oh well, maybe one man can't run all the media. Well, that's of course your Rupert Murdoch. And he looks at the screen. He's like, what a beautiful man. And Smithers says as well. He's like, I couldn't agree more. Rupert Murdoch being the man who runs Fox, obviously. That was such a great moment. And their faces facing the screen is so disturbing, but it's so intentionally done.
It's mad. Like, I do think an episode that was like slightly political. And they literally call out the guy that owns Fox.
I know.
Newspapers. And they like air it. It's
it's wild, but it's done really well. It's really clever. I actually think watching it last night is the most I ever appreciated it. Because when you said that, I was like, yeah, it's alright. And I watched it, I'm like, this is so well written. It's funny. It has a good message. it's also another kind of Simpsons episode, I think, where it's kind of ahead of its time. You know, like the bit at the end where they're all bringing out newspapers. It's like, oh great, now everyone gets to have their own opinion that they can plaster onto the whole world. But this episode would have been like 2003, 2004, so it would have been before social media.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what social media became. I'm surprised no one's kind of copied this yet. You could easily say, oh, The Simpsons
predicted it.
Yeah, you could. Like, I'm surprised no one has yet, because that scene does kind of. I'm sure there were things like this back in 2004, but it's definitely so much more potent now than it was back then. It's like similar to the Homer Badman. It's like they were ahead of the curve. Like, and I think, obviously I don't believe all these like these myths of like the Simpsons writers being time travelers and stuff like that. But I think it's just a testament to how clever they are as writers, as people, that they get to spot these things before they completely came into fruition. You know,
100%.
Yeah, I thought this episode was wonderful. As I said, I appreciated. I would say 10 times more watching last night than I ever did before. I just thought it was well written, really fun. The ensemble was used brilliantly, and great dynamic between Burns and Lisa, which is such a great duo to have against each other, because Mr. Burns is obviously just totally lacking in morals, whereas Lisa like always wants what's best for the greater good.
The least morals and the highest morals.
Yeah, exactly. So great people to have cross against each other.
Yeah, I did give it an 8.5, but I think now talking about it, I'm going to go up to a 9.
I'd agree. I'd give it a 9 as well. Yeah, just great ensemble work done throughout, as I said, and I just you can never. There's no bad Mr. Burns episode. I can't think of one. He's just such a brilliant character. I think the fact that it always makes so much sense to me hearing the writers say that he's like a lot of their favorite characters to write for, because he can say anything. Yeah, of course, yeah. He can say anything because he has no morals, and he's also a millionaire, so he can do anything. So it's like just totally freeing to write.
You have a lot of freedom.
Yeah, exactly. So it just goes to show how they haven't ran out of ideas for him. You know, this is season 15. Like, you still have a great Mr. Burns plot line that you're almost surprised that they didn't think something like that earlier. Him running all of the media, because it just makes perfect sense. Yeah, brilliant episode.
Really, yeah.